Here's the reason for the FallArrest system. I'm gonna put the safety up and down a few times. You can see the safety lug right here is this blue thing. So safety is on, safety off, safety on. When the safety is on, that lug is in the up position, and it keeps me from dropping the hammer by pulling the trigger because it's blocking the sear. When I pull the trigger bow here is pushing on the disconnector spade, which is pushing on the bottom of the sear, trying to rotate the bottom of the sear in this direction. And the sear pivoting on the sear pin here, the top of the sear wants to come in this direction, in that direction, disengaging from the hammer, allowing it to drop, like so. So when we have the safety on, it's blocking the sear. Can't drop the hammer by pulling the trigger. That's the theory. The problem with the existing system is this safety lug does nothing to block the hammer. If the sear tip should break or a sear pin should break and come out the side of the gun and the hammer drops with the safety on, the hammer simply bumps the safety out of the way. Even with a real stiff detent, which I like stiff detents on these things, but in my testing, even with stiff detents, the hammer starts to fall, it just bumps the safety off and fires the gun. So here's what FallArrest does. I'm going to simulate a broken sear by pulling out the sear pin. That would also simulate a broken sear pin. Here's what the sear looks like outside of the gun. Not terribly beefy, a little on the delicate side. It's a hardened part. They're not known for breaking, but a broken sear is, on the other hand, not unknown. So now, with the safety in the on position, I'm going to simulate that broken sear or sear pin by just pulling the sear pin out, and no fire. The fall of the hammer is arrested by a special feature in the safety lug, mating with a special feature in the hammer. So right here you're seeing this engagement right at the tip of my hook, and that is a super positive engagement. And as a matter of fact, the hammer and safety are pulling themselves into engagement with each other so hard that I cannot get the safety off. I cannot, with any amount of pressure, get the safety off. So if a user were to find himself in this condition, the first thing a person might do would be to say, well, what's going on here? Let me take the safety off. And if you could get the safety off, the hammer might drop and fire the gun. So I've designed that geometry so that there's no such thing as getting the safety off. You have to go through a very purposeful sequence of pulling the hammer back, take the safety off, let the hammer down. It won't cock, because remember, there's no sear in it. And at that point, a guy could drop the magazine, lock the slide to the rear, unload the gun, and figure out what it was that went wrong. Okay, let's try this in live fire now. This is the reason for the FallArrest, patent pending FallArrest system. I've got a pretty plain Jane 9mm 1911 here. Everything on it is working. Safety works. Grip safety works. Hammer doesn't follow or anything. The only thing different about it is, in place of a sear pin, I have a .109 gauge pin. That's because I'm going to pull it for this demonstration, and pulling that pin out will simulate a sear pin breakage or a sear tip breakage. The safety on this one has a pretty stiff detent. It has about a 6-pound effort right here. That's the way I like them. I like them so they're not flapping in the breeze and coming off and going on without my knowing it. That's significant to the test because as the hammer falls, it's going to contact the safety lug on the inside and bump the safety down. And the stiffer this detent is, the more effort the more force the hammer would have to bump the safety off. But the thing about it is, where and how the hammer contacts the safety lug, it has a tremendous mechanical advantage. So that really doesn't make any difference. In order for the safety detent to be stiff enough to actually stop the hammer, I don't think a person would be able to get the safety on and off. So let's load it up and give it a try. I'm going to put my little drill chuck on our ersatz sear pin here. I'm going to load the pistol with 2 rounds, and 2 rounds only, of kind of generic Spear TMJ ammo. There's a reason I'm only loading 2 rounds. I'll discuss that in a moment. Chamber around, safety is on. I'm going to start pulling. Blimey, it fired. Well, it would. Think about it. The sear is no longer able to hold the hammer to the rear. So what happens? It chambered the next round. Right there it is. And there's actually, as I would expect, there's a very slight indentation on the primer from the firing pin, because the condition this gun is now in, the hammer follows. So guess what? You're probably figuring this out if you don't already know it. That second round might have fired. Under certain conditions, it would. It depends on many things, little subtleties in hammer geometry, firing pin stop geometry, firing pin spring, recoil spring, etc., etc. But that round could have fired, and every subsequent round in the magazine. So